Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Dev with Excel. Alright, so in this video we shall be solving exercise 3.6, right? And in the previous video we saw how we could solve exercise 3.5 and we used the Thunder client to test the backend. We also generated new values for the ID of a new entry, right? Alright, so here in exercise 3.6 we are going to be implementing the error handling for creating new entries, right? So it says the request is not allowed to succeed if the name or number is missing. That's one. And also if the name already exists in the phone book. That's two. Respond to requests like this with the appropriate status code and also send back information that explains the reason for the error. Example is error must be unique, something like this. All right, so let's go into the code implementation. All right. So we are going to be copying the file parts of step 6. So let's stop this and then let's cd into step 6. Let's npm run the server for step 6. Let's also close all these files. They belong to the previous step. All right, so here let's come to index.js and let's do something like this. All right, so what we need to do is we need to at first not allow the request to succeed if the name or number is missing, right? So we are still going to be using this post request that we created. But before we proceed, let's just quickly comment codes to explain what each of these do. So here we could just say function to generate a random value for each new entry. All right, so generate. So let's comment this. All right, and also this one, let's just say creating a new entry from the user. All right, so what we can do here is before we can be able to concatenate the data coming from the user, we need to pass in some conditions, right? So the first is if the name or number is missing, right, this should not work. So how can we do that? So we simply just use the if statement. We say if, and then we target the name and the number. So to target the name, we say body dot name, right? So if now we understand that this is true, right? This means that the name exists, right? Now we need to negate this expression by using the not operator, right? So if this is not true, that means if the name is missing, then we say or if the number is missing, something like this. Sorry. Okay, so this means that if the name is missing or if the number is missing. Now this is not an and or operation, right? This pipe symbol, it represents the or operation, right? So if one of these is false, right, the expression should not work, right? This should not go through. All right, so what can we pass in into this place? Basically just passing the status code and the information we want the user to see, or the information we want to pass in the console, right? So we could just do something like this. We could just say rest dot status. Now when any one of this is missing, that's a 404, right? So we say dot json, and then here we are going to put in a curly brace, right, which is representing the object we want to work with. So we say error, and then the error of this should be, let's say, name or number is missing. So let's save this. Um, let's go to the Thunder client and let's use the post requests. All right, so let's hit this send key. Now we have this, right? Because the name is not missing, the number also is not missing, right? Now let's assume either of this is missing. Let's remove this number and then let's click send. Oh, all right. So it says error, name or number is missing. Okay, so let's also remove the name and then let's click on send. It still says name or number is not missing. Name or number is missing rather. Now, when we pass in the proper data, let's change this to yellow orange and the number should be, let's say, 01-543, and let's hit the send key. Here we can see that this is successful now, right? So we have blue green here. We have blue green again because I think we actually made a lot of post requests for blue green, right? Blue green 02. Now this is what we just passed in, right? Yellow orange, right? And the number is 01-543 and the ID is 201. Okay, so I think this ID is 201 because of how we implemented the code, right? um I think we should have just made this. Okay, so I don't think it's a problem actually to have the ID as 201. We can fix that later in the in the course of this program, right? But the main thing is that we've been able to generate random values and then we've been able to successfully solve this part of exercise 3.6, right? So we are going to be solving this other part next. All right, so going back to our code, how can we solve if the name is already existing in the phone book? Now, what we can do is this. We are going to be using the find method. We are going to iterate through the entire data, not this one now, the updated one, which we can find in this post request here. We'll be iterating through this and then checking if any one of them is the same as the one passed in by a new user, right? And if it's the same, we are not going to allow the user to make that post request, right? So what we can do is this. We simply write, so we say persons, right? So we are still calling from the persons, but the updated form of the persons, right? Persons dot find. So here this find is going to accept a parameter. Let's call it person, and then we want to target the name of the person, right? The name of the person in the data already. Here we can see the updated data here, right? So we want to confirm if the name of that person, we say person dot name, and we use the triple equal to, and we want to check if this is the same thing as the name in this body, right? Now this body, it represents the data coming from the user, right? So we say body dot name, right? So if the name in the data persons is the same as the name coming from the body, we won't allow that to be posted. So we can assign this piece of code to a variable called, let's call it const, um let's just say existing name, something like this. So using the if statement, now let's save this. Using the if statement next, we could just say if existing name. So what do we want to do? We want to return a status code, right? And then the proper information to the user and the backend itself, right? So we say res.status. So the status we can just give this can be 400 because it is not like we are trying to check if it's missing or not, but the 400 code, it's just to tell us that this person already exists, right? So we can't use it, right? So we say 400.json. So this JSON is going to accept an object, right? So the object should be error. We should bear the string, which says name must be unique, just as it is here. So we could just copy what is here. Let's copy this and then let's paste it here. Let's save. So it says name must be unique. All right, now going to the post, let's target one of the data that is already existing. We have yellow orange here, right? We can see it's already existing. Let's change the number to 05-832. Let's hit the send key. Okay, so this is still giving us, this is still working. Let's go back to our code. Let's be sure of what is happening here. Persons dot find person dot name equals to body dot name. So if existing name res dot status 400.json error. Let's save this again and then let's go back to the post. This is not supposed to work. Step 6. Okay, so this is not working currently. Um, we need to fix this. So here we are trying to say that if this exists, okay. I think the reason why this is working this way is because this data is not exactly stored in the person's data that we are having here. So like I said, we've not begun to save this data, right? We've not begun to save it. This is still what we somehow, okay, let's use the get requests and let's try to get the data in the persons, right? Let's do this. Let's click on send. Okay, so let's go back to post and then let's click on this. Okay, so here it says name must be unique. So I actually don't know why it took this long to respond to this, right? But this is the way it's supposed to work because it's considered this name that we are passing in already exists somewhere in the data. So it says name must be unique. So let's also target another name that also exists. Let's target Dan Abramov. Let's copy it and then let's paste it here. Let's click on send. It still says name must be unique. But if we add a 2 to Dan Abramov 2 and let's click on send, this should be posted. All right. So it says Dan Abramov 2 and the ID is 96. All right. So with this, I think we've come to the end of this exercise. We've been able to successfully solve exercise 3.6. And if you found this helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Bye.